packed in there pretty good. Michigan 3 Sailor Propeller. Ordered from General Propeller, I think out of Florida. My existing prop is a 2 blade. It's actually right here. So that's my existing prop, and it's a 16 by 14 pitch 2 blade, and I'm switching it to 16. So you can see that's about the same size, but 12 pitch. So I'll keep the 2 blade as backup, and I reduced the pitch by 2 because of the extra blade area, but I'm hoping that this gives me a lot more torque now, meaning I might have to go back to a gear ratio. I'm not sure yet, but I'm going to try it out with the direct drive and see how this does for heating. But it's the exact same diameter, 3 blades, and I dropped the pitch by 2 from 14 to 12. Michigan DJ355. One thing that was interesting is it actually came with a blueprint or like a computer diagnostics on how well the propeller is made. It basically is measuring, I think, the variance in the twists on each of the blade and the size and the output. I'll include that little PDF or a paper display of that, but I thought that was really neat. It's almost like documenting their build quality of the propeller. So I've had that other propeller ever since I've had the boat, and I don't know how long that propeller's been on there, but it's like forever. This is going to be a bit different. Because of the 3 blades, it doesn't hide behind the keel when you're sailing, so I'm suspecting I'm going to have revolutions all the time, so I'm going to have to figure out how to get my brake working. But yeah, excited. Oh, that new prop looks pretty good. I've got 3 solid fingers in here in between the hull. So that's at least 2.5 inches, 3 inches, I'd say. My finger widths. It's looking good. Sits on there nicely. It's tapered. There's an inset fill, basically a spacer. So I've got a new one, and yeah, it looks great. Those 2 little ducks, eh? Male and a female, and there's a swan, and then there's 2 Canada geese. There's the winter liveaboards. You want to go that way? Okay, we'll go that way then. Bought this boat with very little. Had no working engine, no instruments, and I gutted it. I pulled the engine out, and then I decided to go electric. So I put an electric motor in, and had a whole learning curve about that. So I learned about batteries and charging systems and wiring and house banks, all the different solar panel and monitoring systems. And that's what this channel is about. It's about sharing the knowledge that I learned, documenting my journey as I retrofitted this boat. I'm looking forward to next year. Next year I'm going to be taking the boat out to the coast, into the ocean, and I'm looking forward to that. So hopefully you can follow along and join me. Decided to leave the cover off this year. I was going to build one, and then I just don't have the time, and so I'm just going to try this year. I did it once before. Doesn't seem like it's getting too dirty. Solar panels are okay. That's the rack of all the masts from all the boats. Well, David's undoing my mistake. I sewed the zipper on and it was an inch lower than where it needed to be. He's like, whoops. Start over. So when I'm going to let you watch me painfully thread a needle here through the machine. It's not easy when you do it the first time. So the top covering on my boat has a bimini, a dodger, and then there's like a piece that joins the dodger to the bimini. So I have kind of a covering, and then I have some windows on the front for the dodger. And what I found is that, especially whenever it rains or if there's a wind coming a certain direction, then the back cockpit is like an unusable space, especially when it's raining. So I wanted to add some enclosure windows. So my project was last year I built the first 2 windows, and then this year I built the next 2 windows. And I learned how to sew, and I started off with some material. I picked up some sunbrella material and the clear marine glass vinyl. This one is 40 thick. And then what I did is I just basically cut some edges, and then I put a binding in on the edge, the little black binding. And the zippers was a bit of a pain. And then because I did this over the winter time, I actually I took all of my bimini and dodger hardware from the boat. I measured the rough heights and widths of things, and then I reset it up back in my field office or in my warehouse. So I set it up so that I could sew in the wintertime. So I draped the materials and I kind of got them all cut and fitted. But when I went back and installed it in the spring, I didn't quite have my measurements right, and I had to relocate zippers and things like that. So, but it worked out great. I can't believe the difference having enclosure windows made. The heat and temperature from the sun coming in is it's monumental. And then this year I added the second 2, and now I've got 4 windows. It's basically enclosed all the way to the back, and the back is still open, but it stops all the rain. And then as soon as the sun starts to peer in there, it's almost like a mini greenhouse, and it's amazing how warm that is. So this is the way I did it, and some clips along the way. Had some help from Jalissa and David, and I learned how to sew. We're both struggling getting that thread in that little needle. In order to be able to work in the wintertime, I took all the bimini hardware off, and then I kind of set up a reconstruction of it here in my warehouse. So what I did here is I just started with the 3 sides of each enclosure window. The left, the right, and the top, and I sewed the zippers on, and I started just figuring out how do they zip in, and then I was making adjustments to the left and the right and the angles of the sides to make sure all the zippers lined up nicely. Or I guess done about as close as I'm going to get here. So I've got my panels put together. They're all stitched in nicely. Because there's a couple alterations I'm going to make, but I'm just going to wait till I'm done. This here has a flap over top, and the zipper was inside. And here I didn't do that. I just put the zipper side by side. But what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to sew in a flap here on this edge to cover the zipper. And same with the other side. And then I have it like this here because it didn't quite come out 100% right there with the arches, and I'm missing I have to put the other support back in here. So I'm going to go back to the boat and then install all the frames, and then you can see the bottom edge I didn't finish yet. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to find the snap down locations So I made them a little bit long. That's why there's a bit of a gap here. Basically, I think it's going to end about here. But I decided to make them just a bit longer so that I have room for alterations, basically. And I can kind of move things around a little bit. But I like the way that it turned out. And then once it's on the boat, this is the transom area here. I have to make the back too. So I've already kind of got the templated pieces, but I wasn't 100% certain on the corners, how this was going to work out. So I needed on the boat to do the corners. So basically I'm going to put it on the boat, come back, re-stitch along this back edge 2 more zippers. One here, and then one here, and then there'll be a zipper in the middle. I'm thinking that's how I'm going to do it, and it actually goes out this way, and it'll snap onto the transom. So I have to come up with some way to do that inside, but yeah, this is going to be amazing. No more rain coming in on the sides. We'll be able to use the cockpit area, so I'm really happy about that. And I just have these 2 last panels here to make. But overall, it turned out okay. And then I had to put these little clamps here because this is actually a snap location. And then there's a snap location here too. And I just haven't figured out, I might trim this corner. I don't know what I'm going to do yet. And but I just wanted to wait until it was on the boat. See, originally this is how the snaps came. So see, there's a snap here. This one is supposed to go on that corner right there. This one is on this corner. And the funniest thing, don't put your needle in backwards. So this needle adjuster got loose, and then the needle, the thread broke, and the needle spun, and I didn't realize. So then it didn't come out, and then it kept breaking and wouldn't stitch. I was like, man, I wasted an hour and a half. I cleaned the whole machine. I got rid of all of the dust particles inside. Yeah, the thing is like re-oiled. And then I was like, oh, my needle was backwards. So don't ever mess up your needle. Be very careful. There's a long, on these walking machines, there's a long edge on the needle on this side, and it needs to face that way. And for somehow mine turned, and it was not even far off. Like if that's not dead in the middle, it does not sew. So it's very, very frustrating. I was like, man, I'm not going to be able to finish this project, but got her done. Tomorrow I dismantle all of that and bring it to the boat, do a test fitting. It's going to be +8 tomorrow. Whew. Hey everybody, try this again with a battery. How to do a battery change. I'm getting the Dodger frame and Bimini frame up now to do a test fitting. The wind seems to have picked up a bit, so this might be a little adventurous. But basically just getting the last of the screws in here, and then I'm going to haul up the Bimini and then install it under here, and then I'm going to test fit my enclosure after getting all of the panels done, and we'll see how my frame measurements either held up or didn't hold up. So I'm a little anxious about it, but we'll figure it out. posts have a little wedge in because the angle's crooked to make them flat. Well, everybody, this is the first install. It's pretty close. First install of the Bimini, sorry. It's pretty close. I think the front panels are good. These panels are just a little bit too forward, I think. So there's just a little bit of a bunching here at the top where it comes in, and I think it's just the angle. So what I need to do is pull this one back a bit. So I think if I take the zipper off and just pull it here, yeah, see, like naturally it just wants to go there, which is good. So I just have to take this zipper and unstitch the bottom one and move it. It looks like, I don't know, 2 inches? 2 inches. And then everything sits a lot flusher. So I'm just going to get my pencil and mark it. I'm pretty sure that this side sits nicely. This side sits nicely as well. And I'm just going to put a snap in here on the corner. It's still fine. So I did it right, but the zipper's just on the bottom is a little bit more, and it'll come this way. It's windy. Anyways, this is what I need to do here. So I'm going to add about 4 inches here. 2 inches at the bottom and maybe 4 inches. So I'll have a band of about 6 inches. I feel that's kind of close to this, so I think I'll just follow that line across here, and it'll look kind of relatively consistent, and it'll be over the bottom edge of this here, this line, and then my snaps won't be going through the window. They'll be hanging out below, and then the window is going to get entrapped in a covering piece. So the zipper's perfect, and then that zipper's a little high, but I'm going to put a flap on it, so it's not going to matter. It's good enough. And then as soon as I adjust the top zippers on the number 2 window, then on the Bimini side, then that'll slide it back, it'll pull it nice and tight, and then I'll be able to get these edges done. So hopefully I can get that done tomorrow. It's about 6 to 8 weeks away. Boats start going in April. Hey everybody, just fitting the adjustments I made to the panels, to the enclosure panels, and then I'm going to mark out where I want to put the connectors on. I actually have an enclosure. And you see this little dot here, that needs to get pulled up for the snap to connect into this one. So I'll do that last. And then there's a little flap that needs to go still stitched in on the outside. Right on. So now what I need to do is I need to work out the measurements of where I want the thing to continue along. So I wanted this to be basically flush with the top, but I'm going to put a little bit longer, so it's cloth only, and then the cloth I'm going to have it come up to about here. So I see this line here, so I think right about there, and I'm going to go right across, and that'll give us a little bit of privacy if we want to lie down. But when I'm sitting like this, I can still see out. But I might want to put just a little bit of a privacy piece here. So this piece will come down and hold on to, this will be all cloth, plus it'll actually offer some protection right here. So I'm going to put a little X where this is touching, on both sides, and then I'm going to double up and put an extra little padding and protection in for the winch. I can't tell you the difference that it makes, like just keeping the wind off. Like, it's amazing having the enclosure windows. I'm so glad I built this. I can't believe I talked to how many people. Nobody has time. Nobody wants to spend their effort, you know, on an old boat. I think is really what it is. They want to, you know, work on all the new boats or whatnot. But so I had to learn how to sew, and it looks like it's coming together all right. Hey everybody, so that turned out well, actually. I'm amazed that I transcribed the frames to that setup I had at my workshop to actually fit, more or less. I says the only thing I had to do was I had to move the back two panels further aft with just the zipper. So the one zipper was just an inch and a half in the wrong spot. So that would probably be like the angles or whatever I had. I wasn't sure, but no, it came out perfect. The lines look good. It looks like they're up and down. They're not crooked or anything. And then I also found some new snaps called locks. Like maybe they're not new, but they're new to me. And they snap together. They have a little ball on them, and you have to pull the lid to open it to let it come across. So like a traditional snap, you snap them, but then after a while they get loose. Like my snaps here just seem to fall off. So what I intend on doing is replacing those with cloth-to-cloth locks, LOXX. And but I'm going to do that as well. I'm going to put a couple flaps on the panels that I'm going to be doing. And then the back, I still need to do the back, figure out the back. So I made a template for it. I just second guessed myself. I'm not too sure. So I wanted it here to be able to figure out while it's actually on the transom or on the top, because I need to bolt it to the transom. And I said, you know, it was just too much open to chance. So I want to have I'm going to make it a big zipper in the middle, and then I also have the backstay that goes through there. So I just got to figure out how I want to do it. So I think I'm even going to just take some cloth and then try to string it and maybe screw it down where I want it. I don't know, I'll figure out something, but the point is I just wanted to do it here on the boat. So I only have tomorrow, it was plus 10 today, right now it's plus 10. And then tomorrow's plus 8, but rain, they're calling late in the afternoon. So I'm going to try to just get the last two, or the panel adjustments done for the front, and then I can mark the ones for tomorrow, which I can do when it's cold. I think that's all I wanted to go over, so thanks for watching. This is a big week this week for me, and I'm 6 weeks to launch, or 7 weeks before I'm in the water, so I'm trying to get this as much as I can done here now while the weather's decent. So it's going to be a pretty hot summer this year, 2024, so we'll see how it goes. I'm trying to get as much as I can get done so I can start cruising. If I can't get a couple key things done, then I'll have to delay one more year, but I'm really hoping to get out this year. At least get the boat to the Maritimes so that November I can bring it down south and take work part-time through the wintertime. I still got to work, pay the bills. All right, thanks everybody. Okay guys, so today I'm unstitching because I measured out my distance from the bottom here, and this is the new bottom. This was just an estimate, so I had to bring it down a little further. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be drawing a line from here to here, and then I'm going to make that the new top edge of this window. And it's a weird shape like this because this actually comes out somewhat. The winch is actually right behind here. This is the top of the winch. So what's going to happen is that this is going to come across, or not quite like that, more like this, and then this one is going to come straight on the second panel. So this is the first panel that's attached to the front. And this is actually on a bit of an angle, so it's a bit of an optical illusion here. It's actually pretty straight. So when you look at it from the boat, it'll be somewhat, even, because this one's got a little bit of an angle on it. Maybe not that much, but so it won't be, it won't look like it's fairly off. So I'm making one for the back, one for the top, and then I'm going to cut the plastic as well, probably about another inch or two below, and it'll drop this bottom part. And the reason for that is just it's not needed, it's just extra weight. I'd consider leaving it behind the winch, but I think that it's going to be strong enough with just this umbrella stuff is really strong. And if I need to, I'll just sew a little patch right over top where it'll hit the winch. So I'm de-stitching it right up to the black mark. I'm going to cut this off, and then I've taken all of this out on the other side, the zipper. I'm going to put new fabric and then a new binding, and then restitch it all back up together, but coming all the way down to this point here. I'm making the bottom stitches, or the bottom sections, which are a little bit longer, and then I'm going to end up cutting off the excess here. So I'm going to undo the stitching and then just cut off the brown, and then I'm going to lay some new binding down too. So I'm going to take that out, but this extra black one at the back here I don't want to take off or cut, because that's how I know if it's straight. So what I'm doing here is I'm putting in a anti-tear piece in between the two umbrella fabrics. It's a special material that was, it's almost like it's plastic coated, and it's got some kind of coating on it, and it just resists tear really well. Also, this is just binding tape. It's double-sided tape, and it's a 1/4 inch thick, and I'm using that to basically glue it, or hold it in place while I stitch. This is much easier than using clips or something. And then the second thing that this does is that when the needle goes through it and comes back out with the thread, the double-sided tape material itself encloses itself on the hole, and it becomes waterproof. So it's very useful, especially on the top. I also use the same binding tape for the top seam, not at the bottom because there's a black binding that I sewed around the edges, but the top seam right along against the window doesn't have a binding. So I'm just basically flipping it 1/4 of an inch. And repeat for the top layer, and then get ready to sew the binding. Yeah, this is pretty tedious as I run these over and flip them and pull the binding tape pieces off. It's not complicated. It just takes time, patience, and to keep working, and you get through it. All right, now I sew. pretty smooth. Hey everybody, I'm just putting a couple little last finishing touches up here on my enclosure windows. So I just made some little snaps and straps to, when you roll up the enclosure window, I can now snap it to the other outside. And then I've got these are really interesting. They're called locks. So this is called locks, and then what it basically does is you have to pull it to let go of the connection. So I'll show you that down here. So you just basically just shove it through and then tighten it up on the other side, and it ends up looking like this. So this is the receiving end. So this is gonna just take a little bit of the pressure off the zipper so it's not fully on the zipper. That's why I'm putting that there on both ends. And then next I'm going to get these little clips here fixed down at the bottom, but I didn't want to do that until I had this here. And then I'm a little bit off right now because I've been kind of pulling on it, but this should come down to about here. So I'm gonna clamp this down here, and then I'm gonna fix the bottom. And then I'm gonna basically call my first panel almost done.
Rain's holding me hostage.
You're being held against your will? Is that what you said?
By the rain.
These side enclosure windows are working pretty good, but we've got to get the other ones on here, so water's coming in here. But at least we can sit outside, eh? We could never do that before in the rain.
Yeah.
So
the longer we sit out here, the more drips we find in the canopy.
I'm going to have to spray the top of this umbrella material with that weatherproofing again.
You have to do it every year, I think, eh?
I don't know. I think it was leaking there because of the duct, but this one's leaking at the zipper.
Yeah.
So I don't know why that one, how to get around that one.
Just over onto that side.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah. Because it's on top, it's not under. Yeah, you're right. So this is the last step for these windows, but I'm going to show you the next step. I ran out of the material, so I had to stitch a couple pieces together here just for the one side. But I just have to put the trim along the bottom and along the side, and tack that zipper, a little bit of the zipper down. But I'll show you how I got to this part. So the first thing I did was I cut two pieces out for the bottom. And these are basically mirror-sized pieces, and one is for the underside and one is for the top side. And then what I did is I measured from my railing to the bottom, and I got 12.5 inches. And over here I had 14 inches. And it's just because my top's not quite square. But so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to unstitch this side, and then I'm going to draw myself a line across from there to there, and then I'm going to cut off the bottom. And I'm basically just doing that so that this is not as heavy as this material. So it's just to make it a bit lighter. And then this is also a bit of a privacy screen. So at the bottom of the window, you can't quite see in. So when we're sitting there, you'll see us, but you can't quite see all the way down to the bottom. So I'm going to unstitch this side. I'm going to cut off about half an inch below where I want the line to be is maybe a little bit, 5/8 roughly. And I'm going to run a line across, and I'm going to chop off the bottom. And then I'm just going to unstitch this last little bit here so I can pick the zipper up. And then when I'm done, I'm going to restitch it. So to get the top and the bottom on, I'm going to use this here, double-sided tape. And I got all this stuff here from Sailrite. They've got all kinds of material and things. The material I bought at the local store because they had some in stock, and then they ordered me a whole big roll of this stuff. You can see here I just made my cut line lower than where it needs to be, so I'm just going to cut a little bit below the cut line, and that'll just give me enough to put a stitch on top. And then that's actually a guideline for me to attach this here on this side, but basically I just line them up on these notches. So the reason I use a screwdriver end to press down the double-sided tape is that when you cut this sunbrella material with the heat gun, I find that I can actually get minor little slivers if I use my fingers. It actually cuts my skin off. But this is how I do this. So you flip it over and give it a little crease. And then after the crease, take the double-sided tape off. And then I fold it again. And then I give it a wipe. Just creases it. It gives me some working time where it doesn't want to pick up. And my last piece, I give myself about 1/8 of an inch to the edge. And I go over that seam. The seam is being covered just ever so slightly. I'll go over it again with the screwdriver, just pin down nicely. Now this is the top half of that. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this bottom part off because I don't need it, and this is just, I'm cutting it off largely just to reduce the weight, but it's also the material is a little bit more flexible down at the bottom where I can kind of go around the winches and ropes and things, whereas the 40 mil window material is more rigid, so it doesn't bend as much. This is why we use a two-sided tape. It makes sewing everything so much easier. Now I'm gonna put the top half in. And this folded border gives me a really nice line all the way down. And the two-sided tape has it stuck in exactly the right position. Okay, so I'm going to run a line here across the sewing machine to stitch the top of it into the plastic, and then it won't move. And then I'm going to stitch this piece here on the inside. And this is an anti-tear material. And this is because I'm going to be putting some snaps or some twists down here. And the twists are going to be in case there's a lot of pulling that's going on. So I've got some extra material to strengthen it down here at the bottom. This one. I just want to say thanks to Armando for printing me the reduction gear. It's basically on the left of the machine here. It's a double-sized gear that slows the machine down in half and gives it double the torque. Some of this material is pretty thick, and the single size or the regular sized gear weight, it's almost like a flywheel. It couldn't penetrate all of the material. That's it. We're very close to being done, these two windows. Aside from the actual putting the steel latches in, but in terms of sewing, I just have to put the trim on that side and sew this little zipper down. That's about it. So I'm getting very close. All right, so I'm just going to put the trim on and cut these two little lobes off, and that's it. So these are the final enclosures all together. You can see the top goes across, and then I've got the banding on the bottom here. And I like the fact that the banding on the bottom is covering the winches, so it's not going to break through the vinyl material there for the window material. I still have the back to do. I left the back open. You know, I've been really slow on this project. It's taken me over a year. I did these 2 side panels last year, and then now the back 2 panels. And it's just because it's really time consuming. As you can see from the video, there's a lot of noodly little things. And I wanted to get out and sail a little bit too. So this year, I lost 2 months in the summer with the prop shaft. You can see that in my other video. But I'm glad to get these last 2 pieces done here. Now I've got to figure out what to do on the back, and what I think I'm going to do, actually, this is why I like doing things in stages. He's like, you got to use it for a little bit and figure out how things work. I want to put a corner piece right here going down and leave that permanently in there. So just basically it'll be a little curve, and then I'm going to make the middle part a big window instead, with a gap for the turnbuckle, or the rear adjuster, the backstay adjuster. Yeah, and I just want to say thanks to Armando. I'm trying to get it into the picture here, but he pointed out that my backstay adjuster is actually upside down, and I didn't actually realize that. This is how it was on the boat when I got the boat, and I've just been putting it the same way. And what the way it is that the way the cleats, no, I don't know what they're called, the little prongs at the end connect into each other, they're actually not the right way. So I need to redo that and find a new clevis pin to put in there. But when I do that, it'll be down lower, and I'll actually might have room to squeeze out in between the little the gap between the two, especially if I chop that top piece of the railing off and replace it with a line, which I might consider doing this winter. So yeah, so basically the top of the enclosure will be up on the top. It'll be a nice big window, and then the bottom will be all material, and it'll be solid material on the corners is what I'm thinking, instead of the glass. And that's basically to keep them in permanently. It'll keep tension on the back of the corner of the bimini, and yeah, and it's because all I put back there is my ropes anyways. But we'll see. I still have lots of material left, so maybe I'll make windows on the corner too, I don't know. But I think it might be a little simpler because of the way it's shaped. You've got this corner shape, and then it goes out and up at the same time, so it's quite complicated on the corner. That's why I'm thinking of doing 2 corners and then making a bigger window in the middle, and instead of doing a line. I was originally going to do a zipper right along the middle, but I don't think I'm going to do that. I just want to say thanks for watching to the end of this video. For those that made it, I really appreciate that. You know, it just if you like this content, please give it a thumbs up. It really helps out the channel a lot. Make a comment down below. I love thinking about what I'm doing, and when I get comments from people, it's like other people's perspectives on things. It really does help me out a lot, because it makes me think about it. It makes me think about things that maybe I didn't think of. So I really do appreciate that. It keeps me going, and I'm getting closer to getting out in the spring, so I'm looking forward to that. I'll see you in the next video.